have an idea. This is actually good. So Christopher Nolan's The Following is actually quite brilliant. I'll tell you why. For a first-time film. I'm talking about first-time films. The reason why it's good is because, for one thing, he was dealing with a writer following someone into an underground, shady, secret crime spree where people were breaking into English homes and stealing valuables. But it was led to like a little kind of organized, you know, small little Frank Booth kind of group, and the guy with the hammer and all this kind of stuff. And then there was a chick, and so it was a noir. Okay, so I can take that idea, because that's not that uncommon to have someone follow someone, right, to get information, especially like a writer falling into a seedy, you know, that's not necessarily, he didn't invent the writer or the storyteller falling into like a seedy information or falling into seedy environment for the sake of a story or something like that. An investigator falling into, I mean, there's so many, like the movie Rush is like, well, Rush deals with undercover pigs. I'm not talking about that. But there's a lot of different movies where Chinatown's kind of like about an investigator. Anyway, I can find another movie where there's like a writer that falls into like a seedy kind of thing. There's a lot of like stuff like that. Okay, this guy is kind of like a documentarian, and he falls into like a seedy kind of thing. And it's similar to where instead of them like breaking into, because, okay, here's another thing about The Following. The reason why it's good is because he could find locations, especially in England or wherever it was shot, London or whatever. He could find locations that they could like break into, like, or at least pretend like they're breaking into, because it was just a movie. And that would be like in one location. He could find these cool locations, and they were already like lived in, I think is what I heard. A lot of the places that they used, they just borrowed places, and that's not that hard to do. And people think that's cool, especially if you're making a movie. So this would be about like a thief circle, okay? And anyway, the guy falls into it because he's like an investigator, maybe a vlogger, okay? And maybe I can make him a vlogger rather than a writer, okay? Which is a little different, because Christopher Nolan's quite the writer, don't get me wrong, he was an English major. Okay, so he's basically a vlogger, and he falls into this shady thing, and so these people get people's smartphones, okay? And they basically, now that's where the key is. That's where we have to do a lot of note cards and thinking. They get into their smartphones in a certain way. Now, there is one way to do it with facial recognition that's gone on in New York, and that was a big deal. Another way is they get their code. You know how you have that little number code? Because if they can get their phone, they can transfer funds. So he meets this kind of clever thief, and he's a vlogger, and he basically kind of lets him shadow him. I guess maybe even for the sake of the show, but the guy has to wear like a Banksy outfit, you know, he has to wear like a mask or something so that he doesn't reveal his identity. It almost is shot kind of documentarian style a little bit, but I like the idea of what Nolan did with The Following, doing it black and white. So to make it kind of like a narrative. It would be a narrative, it wouldn't be a documentary. But it could be shot documentary style maybe, just because it can be easier to do through the vlogger's phone. So it follows them. They get these smartphones, because it'd be easy to get smartphones. I have a few of them myself that I could even use. I have my original HTC. I have a Mini. I have a Motorola Mini. I also have a S7 and an S8. I have 4 of them. Okay, so there's 4 separate scenes. The idea that's kind of cool is that the main thief teaches him that he can transfer the funds or whatever in a safe way or something. It might be like transferring funds to a disposable account that he can use, like an ATM, to get a hold of cash, right? Meaning, let's say if you did get a hold of someone's information and you could access their bank, you can always put money into a different account from one account. Like you can put money in a Cash App, you can put money blah, blah. And you can also open a Cash App with, I guess, any email you want to. Using another device that, I mean, they could probably trace it. They could probably trace the device. But if he uses a disposable device, like let's say like a, I don't know, like let's say a stolen phone, then they wouldn't really know who had it. Do you see? If the phone that they're using to transfer things with, or to access is a stolen device. So let's say if you took money from one account, okay, and you put it into, let's say, a fake Cash App, right? They could trace it through the devices, right? So they would know it would come from that one phone that was, stolen. But if it was transferred through a fake Cash App onto another stolen phone, and they can't really necessarily trace the Cash App because the person used a stolen phone to open a Cash App, or whatever it may be. It could be Venmo, it can be anything, temporarily, just to withdraw funds. So a long time ago, back in the day, and this may be in the movie, you could do that using PayPal, because you could go to Walmart and you could cash out a PayPal at Walmart. I used to do it. You can also put money on a PayPal through like a 7-Eleven. I don't know if you can I don't know if they allow cashing out PayPals at Walmarts, but I think I heard that you can if you use like a QR or something, because they're still using a device. But if that device is stolen, like the phone is stolen, they wouldn't be able to trace it, especially if the PayPal was created on that device by that person. Unless they had a facial recognition of that device and the person didn't use a facial recognition for that device and they only used a number, they would never know. And that could be in the movie, that kind of like monologue or whatever. You'd have to like draw it out so you could understand. If both devices are stolen, the first device, they don't know who stole it. The second device would be stolen, and the Cash App could be created, or the PayPal could be created through one of those devices. How would they know? Now, it can go through a Wi-Fi. They might know through the Wi-Fi from like the location that you're at. But I mean, ultimately, if it was like a lot of money, I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever, then eventually they crack down. But let's say if the thief circle, everyone was only doing like $400 or $500 a day or something, or $400 or $500 a week, or whatever amount they were thieving, and it would all come from simple break-ins, or from I don't know, like like maybe vehicle break-ins or different kind of like things like that. It would be like kind of like The Following, because The Following only shows like basically like house burglary. If you've seen Christopher Nolan's The Following, so it wasn't that hard to do, and the person could just show what he's doing with the phones. It wouldn't be that complex. But there's still a lot of dialogue in The Following if you watch it. So since this group is making money off first stolen phones and transferring funds, they're making extra money, then they become shady because they could get busted. So now I got to think, if there's a moment like where the hammer's broken out, like in Christopher Nolan, and there's that crazy dude, I got to think about what I'm going to use, because I want to stay away from guns, because I don't want to put guns in my first time feature, especially if it's lower. So maybe like a wrench. I don't really want to use a wrench. Or maybe like some pliers or something, that kind of thing, Like the guy is kind of a Frank Booth kind of guy that runs it. So then I can bring in a little bit of Blue Velvet kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I could do. All right, so one of the thieves, I can't tell if it's a good thief or the bad thief, but maybe the investigator, he has a secret whistle that goes like this. That's a secret whistle. Sounds like a bird. Listen. So the other guy calls him Bird. So his name is Bird. I just got the name right now. doing a cover of Fast Car. Let's stop it now, because it's not your song. All right. So this is what I could probably do that's very similar to the following and keep it isolated. To find an actor on Backstage who plays the smartphone thief. And we find locations. And it won't be that difficult to find locations. Now, I'm not going to like flip out a whole lot with mics and lighting. I might a little bit. I'm learning a little bit about lighting. I'm actually watching some lighting stuff on YouTube. So there are some lights that cost like $250. They're like digital. They can get really, really bright. They can get very, very dim. You can use them as what's called key light. There's a rim light. There's different aspects to lighting. I know there's 3-point lighting. I went to a 3-point lighting class at NYU when I was about 19 years old. It was like the only class I audited was a 3-point lighting class, but it also showed their student films about 3-point lighting, because they would make a short film, like 5 minutes or 6 minutes, that would incorporate 3-point lighting. So it was a short film they would make, but it would have an assignment behind it. This is what NYU does. So I got a taste of film school from NYU. But anyway, I might go and get a light so I can throw this light around. I've heard some techniques. You can use shower curtains for techniques to dampen the light. You can control the light. You can use mirrors. So we might explore lighting, because I want to also incorporate lighting. So it won't just be thrown together. It'll be planned out. And I do plan to make a trailer, or I do plan to make like a little short of it. So what I'll probably do is I'll write the script first. That way I can take segments of it to make the trailer or the short. And that's probably what they did with Blood Simple, I'm sure. They had a script. So we'd have the script set aside. I won't attempt anything other than the script until I get the MacBook Pro, so that I can have something that will have credits. It'll look halfway decent, whether it be a 10-minute short based on what the feature could be, or it'll be a trailer. Now, here's another thing. I can write the script first on a legal pad, which is probably what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get a legal pad, a pencil, or pen, whatever, and I'm going to write out the whole script, okay? I might use note cards, too, because I did that once with Grace, but it kind of got out of hand, and that's David Lynch's idea, to use like 70 note cards. That's a good thing, too, because that would be more for the feature, okay? For the short, I'm probably going to use maybe 10 note cards, and I'll write the short on a legal pad. Okay, so that'll be like, I'll have an idea of what the movie could be, and also for the foundation, I'll use The Following, which is a Christopher Nolan movie. So the reason why is because I need it to be a crime thriller, and I need it to be a noir, right? Because that's a genre that can be sold. I also have to keep guns out of it, so I don't want to use any guns, even in the feature. Now, I had an idea, and this was kind of an original idea, that if they did use a gun, they would just use their hand like that. The reason why I like that idea is because it's showing some ballsy, creative, kind of Godard kind of stuff. And a lot of films haven't ever even really done that at all. So I thought it'd be kind of a cool thing, because if the actor's convincing and he's using his hand like this, it could be believable, and it's a risk, but it might be something that we could do. So why it would work is just because the actor would mean it, and he would be holding it like it's a real gun, but it's really just his hand, right? And you could go like, and make the gun sound violent, because you can insert that, but just using the hand like that. I like that idea. It makes a comment about guns on set. Okay, regardless of that, because I know it's not all about the sets and the props, it's more about the story anyway. All right, so there it is. The base foundation would be a version of The Following. Whether I do black and white, I don't know. And it would be incorporating the smartphone as the thing that they want to get a hold of. And the main thief, which is about a circle of thieves or a ring of thieves, would know how to transfer like bank account information into something like PayPal or something like a mock PayPal, and then they could cash it out somewhere or something like that. You can see that kind of happening and stuff like that. Just like the following was just about them getting a hold of materials from people's homes. It was about burglary. And so that's where that thief circle is. This would be just about smartphone theft kind of thing. You know, because you got to have, I don't know, like a theme or whatever. And the following is like a really good one because it's simple noir that he could use, and also exploring different interiors, whether it be a room or an apartment or something like that. You see what I'm saying? All right. And there's probably some things I could also borrow from, which would be Blue Velvet, because I could have a squatter, and the squatter could be like the lead guy, and also maybe taking a little bit from an original play that I was in by a guy named Pete Gooch called Swank City, which y'all haven't seen that, but it is floating unlisted on YouTube. I've posted it once on my Facebook. I played a character named Christy. I think that's what his name was.